Excellencies, distinguished delegates, good morning from New York. We are here today on the sidelines of the high-level week of the 76th session of the UNGA, and I wish to thank you for joining us during your busy schedule. Although it is yet organized fully in person, but we have seen the returns of head of states and governments, as well as other high-level delegates to New York, excluding the reopening of restaurants and cafes, as well as students coming back to school. For many New Yorkers, especially people who work in the missions, the convening of the UNGA is another sign for all of us to return back to some sort of normalcy in this very testing and challenging time. Today, the government of Indonesia is honored to co-host this event with the government of the United Arab Emirates. I am pleased that we have many countries and organizations joining to this event. It testifies to a growing recognition that creativity stemming from our different cultures is an important force for sustainable development. I realize that some of the participants may be joining us from different time zones. I therefore would like to get this event underway. I'm pleased to welcome distinguished leaders and prominent speakers, both from the public sectors and international organizations, as well as the private sectors and think tanks. Excellencies, distinguished participants, it is my honor to begin today's event by welcoming His Excellency Febrian A. Rudyard, the Director General of Multilateral Cooperation, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, to deliver his opening remark. Excellency, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Excellency, Madam Retno Marsudi, Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Excellency Madam Nura binti Muhammad Al-Kabi, Minister of Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates, Excellency Dr. Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Excellencies, Ministers, leaders of regional organizations, leaders of international organizations, distinguished pentahelix, ladies and gentlemen, good morning from New York. A warm welcome for you all to the today's side event of high-level week of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly on resilient and inclusive creative economy for a thriving future. Indonesia is pleased to co-organize this event together with the government of the United Arab Emirates, and our highest appreciation goes to all distinguished speakers for sparing their valuable time to convey their aspiring message in this event. The International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021 was adopted by consensus at the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly 2019. Today's side event showcases our strong belief on the important contribution of creative economy to the three dimensions of sustainable development and the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. In 2021, the government of Indonesia has been partnering with many countries, such as in January, Creative Economy for Inclusive Development and Global Recovery partnered with the Sultanate of Oman and UNCTAD. In July, at the side event High-Level Political Forum, we organized a virtual exhibition, Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, Let's Connect. There were 6 countries, 6 international organizations, and 1 regional organization and MSMEs participate in the exhibition, and almost 100 videos from pentahelix around the world. Inclusive and Resilient Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, co-hosted by the government of Colombia. In July, Creative Economy and IP Supporting Creative and MSMEs co-organized with the government of UAE and WIPO. Throughout 2021, Indonesia had conducted various events to connect creative economy sectors, including B2B at bilateral level. Ultimately, through today's event, we would like to solidify our commitment to stand together to push the role of creative economy for stronger global recovery and thriving future. Thank you. and God bless us all. Thank you so much.
I thank Ambassador Rudyard for his opening remarks. Indeed, as mentioned by DG Rudyard, we are really hoping that this event would allow us to continue to work together to maximizing the role of creative economy towards the global recovery effort. I now have the honor to present a message from Her Excellency Retno Marsudi, the Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in today's side event on resilient and inclusive creative economy for a thriving future, co-hosted by the government of Indonesia and the UAE. Indonesia takes pride in initiating UNGA designation of the year 2021 as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. We are all aware of the serious blows the pandemic has caused on the global economy. Bold and innovative solutions are needed to accelerate our recovery. We need to find ways to generate jobs, empower women and young people in the economy, and reduce poverty. This is where creative economy comes in. Creative economy accounts for more than 30 million jobs worldwide, where nearly half of the workers are women. Creative industries employ more young people than any other sectors. In Indonesia, the industries employ 14.3% of Indonesia workforce, from crafts and gaming to fashion and tourism. Creative industries have proven to be very agile during this pandemic, able to find ways to grow and survive. More importantly, creative industries help countries to diversify their economy into value-added sectors. This International Year of Creative Economy, therefore, is our momentum to better support creative economy as part of global economic recovery. There are two issues we should be focusing on right now. First, promoting an enabling environment. This is our responsibility as governments. We must design policies and regulation that spur innovation and allow creative economy to thrive. Access to microfinancing will enable creative actors to scale up their production, while widespread digitalization would allow them to expand their consumer base and penetrate overseas market. Equally important is human capital development. After all, the industry's greatest assets are the people. This can be achieved through vocational and entrepreneurial training, as well as digital literacy. Second, foster collaboration to mainstream creative economy. The first steps toward this end are by building greater awareness and promoting public awareness on the economic values of creative industries. Indonesia believes that promoting creative industries is part of advancing sustainable development. Our experience during the pandemic shows the importance of creativity for business sustainability and economic resilience. The role of creative industries in developing countries must be strengthened. The UN can support this by facilitating exchange of lessons learned and best practices, policy guidelines on generating socio-economic return from creative economy, and provide platforms for collaboration for creative players across countries to allow creative players from developing countries to contribute to the global economy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us make full use of this International Year of Creative Economy to reaffirm our support for creative industries. The potential of creative economy is boundless. This is our opportunity to ensure it contributes to our inclusive economic recovery so that we can recover together and recover stronger. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. And now, joining us live from Jakarta, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Dr. Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, to deliver his keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Kurniadi Koba. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not in Jakarta. I'm in the island of gods in Bali. It's beautiful and very spiritual, enlightening to be in Bali during this time of the year. So let me start my remark by acknowledging the presence of my counterpart, Director General for Multilateral Cooperation's Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Febrian A. Rudiard, Charge d'Affaires Permanent Missions of Indonesia to United Nations in New York, His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Kurniadi Koba, Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Mr. Ernesto Otone Ramirez, distinguished speakers, Pentahelic members, and ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. From Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, we have delegates, Pak Wisnu, Deputy of Resources and Institutions, Pak Iman Santosa, Director of Institutional Relations, and Pak Raden Sigit Wicaksono, Director of Tourism Marketing for Asia Pacific region. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, greeting from the Islands of Gods, Indonesia, Bali, the enchanting Bali, to you all. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to address you in the side event during this busy month of the 76th United Nations General Assembly. I hope you are well physically, mentally, and equally important spiritually. This year is the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, the year where creativity should not be taken for granted and should be part of the global sustainable development discourse. The conversations on whether creative economy is resilient and significant for the global economy is in fact obsolete. It has been widely proven that creative economy moves the needle positively in many economic crises and only contracted less compared to the conventional sectors during the pandemic. Subsectors such as game and applications, TV and radio, and creative contents grow positively. Online curated contents have been the name of the game as people are spending their time at home with their gadgets. Instead, we should recognize that the conversation has moved into how creative economy could accentuate its principle as the new economy with the limitless and inclusive modality and creativity, or modality of creativity and innovations from across the strata. Granted, we still have the pre-existing conditions, such as technological divide, digital literacy issues, and lack of appreciations for all creativities. The International Year momentum should be able to put all those realities into spotlights. We need to understand that in order to solve the problem, we also should recognize and acknowledge the problem. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, from Bali, Indonesia, I'm proposing that we move to recognize that we are at a critical site. Which pathway should we embark after the pandemic? Will that be an old normal or business as usual, or a better normal where no one is left behind? To thrive in the future, where we will experience multiverse of realities and economics practices, we should go for the one that provide a level playing field. This is the reality where the new economy rules the world, the one that is idea-oriented, able to create new markets, and most importantly, sustainable. Creative economy, thus, is the new economy. Interestingly, creativity and knowledge-based economy is not a newly minted discovery. However, with the technological advancements, it has become a contemporary solid options, an economy where creators are bound into big ideas and innovations, where micro, small, medium enterprises could think big, where new market is being identified and expanded, where the creators are able to adapt, express themselves for any possible solutions to our daily lives. Creative economy embraces the world's dynamic changes. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, I would like to share brief points for the creative communities and stakeholders, assuring that they could be able to strive in the future. First, we need to provide more supports for the unexplored creatives, from digital trainings, intensive mentoring, and continuously monitored capacity building. We need to give them sense of innovations and explorations so that they are able to break through in the ever-connecting future, giving them the ammunition to be creative, regardless of their conditions and wherever they are. And second, the current creative and gig workers should be assisted as well. With the current pandemics, most of them are unable to showcase their work and innovations. Thus, we need to ensure that they should be uplifted with programs such as incentives, grants, upscaling mentorship, and any other tangible assistance. I'm also calling all stakeholders to explore any social protections mechanism which will guarantee these gig workers to survive in the unforeseen and uncertain, unfortunate circumstances. Our job as policymakers, nonetheless, is to ensure that creative economy could provide a fair, level playing field, equity, and basically a level playing field should be at the core of an inclusive, resilient creative economy. And holistically, we need to purvey our seriousness in making this sector into a bona fide one, as well as a way to achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda in 2030. On a final note, I personally believe in three keywords, which are innovations, adaptations, and collaborations. Those keywords shall be the tone of a resilient and inclusive creative economy. Those keywords, as a nation, we are embracing. And we are also embracing innovations at every level. And it is the key to prosper to our citizens and that is able to adapt in any circumstances and believes in collaborative works shall come out as a thriving, resilient nation. As for collaborations, Indonesia is proud to be the home of Global Center of Excellence and International Cooperations for Creative Economy, or GCINC. And we have Dr. Dina Deliana as part of the Pentahelix. Together, with Ms. Sinta Danuardoyo, founder of bubu.com Indonesia, to join us in this very prestigious event. Fulfilling the mandate of Bali Agenda for Creative Economy, GSync acted as a platform to collaborate and sharing best practices on the creative industries and communities, as well as opening opportunities to further the mainstreaming issues of creative economy. I, for one, would like to invite you to utilize this platform to engage and collaborate. I wish you a very fruitful side event, and I would like to see you physically in Bali sometime in the near future, because we are preparing for the reopening of Bali in preparations for next year's G20, where we will be hosting and serve as president for the whole of 2022. And I encourage you to embrace creative economy towards a stronger, thriving, resilient nations. I thank all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, bless all of us. Stay safe, stay healthy. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Excellency, for your strong message. Excellencies, distinguished participants, I would like now to present a keynote message from Her Excellency Nora bin Muhammad Al-Kabi, Minister of Culture and Youth of the UAE.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure speaking to you all today, as this event and the issues it tackles are catalysts for positive change. Resilience and inclusivity are two words that have profound meaning and relevance in our present context. As we are all still reeling from the various impacts of the pandemic, many countries around the world, including ours, have proved resilient in minimizing economic and cultural repercussions suffered by many. Therefore, as we address the creative economy, I would like to highlight the role of technology in maneuvering through the trying times of COVID. Technological innovations have been a testament to human ingenuity and creativity. Our reliance on virtual and online means for the sustenance of cultural activities has helped us access a wider audience and make them more inclusive, going beyond the limitation of physical space, hoping that we collectively return to the old norm in the short term. We are all challenged to think of the opportunities that have come about with regard to shaping the future of our global cultural and creative economy. The socio-economic parameters of culture are at the heart of the importance of culture in identifying and facilitating the growth of societies. It is the sphere that is most crucial in connecting peoples and nations. The cultural and creative sector is increasingly crucial in driving the developmental agenda of nations, particularly as it relates to the diversification of the economy. COVID-19 posed significant challenges across the board, alienating many in the creative sector. Here in the UAE, as part of our data-driven policies to identify best practice and the formulation of the policies, we published the UAE's Cultural and Creative Industries Pulse Check, with a focus on resilience and recovery during the pandemic. The report clearly outlined the severity of the damage and loss to both corporate and freelance creatives during the pandemic. The inability to perform, create, and interact has been detrimental. However, digital evolution and the ability to generate digital content and share remotely has been instrumental in building resilience amongst the creative community. The report also identifies the forward-thinking policies that incubates all across the sector and promote further inclusiveness. As we embark on the post-COVID era, attracting and supporting creatives is a priority for us. Enabling them within creative hubs and with a framework that empowers them will further develop the resilience and inclusiveness born out of the pandemic. The need for making cultural activity a lucrative source of livelihood for human capital that drives the sector is essential. Cultural growth and vibrancy are linked directly to our world's sustainable growth and are essential to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, SDGs. Although the SDGs do not include a separate goal for cultural sector, the creative sector is crucial for the realization of holistic goals, especially those pertaining to well-being education, employment, economic growth, innovation, industry production, and consumption. Raising the contribution of CCIs to national and global GDP is a catalyst to attaining several SDGs. Thriving cultural economies also contribute to urban recovery and resilience, lowering levels of pollution, carbon footprints, and other ecological threats. As far as the UAE is concerned, we are glad to state that we have made significant strides in putting the country's CCI sector on a growth trajectory. As we celebrate this year as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021, it is a source of great pride that the UAE will host the closing event of the year, which will be marked by the second World Conference on Creative Economy that will be held at the Dubai Exhibition Center at Expo 2020 Dubai. We look forward to continuing the legacy of the first World Conference on Creative Economy, WCCE, which was held by our friends in Indonesia in 2018. This year's conference theme is Inclusively Creative, and the WCCE's 2021 focus is Cultivating the Future. We will emulate the good example set by Indonesia in making this year's conference a great success as we aim to continue to drive the agenda for creative economy framework both globally and regionally. We have invited the world's policymakers, thought leaders, visionaries, aspiring creatives and innovators to celebrate WCCE 2021 so as to engage with the future of our creative economy collaboratively. We invite you to mark your calendars for the 7th to 9th December and tune into the exciting conference. We hope that guests who come to the UAE for the conference will set time aside to visit and take in the various sites of cultural infrastructure that we have worked towards building and enabling throughout the past decades as part of our comprehensive cultural mandate. I thank you all for attending this virtual event on the sidelines of the 76th General Assembly of the United Nations that we have co-hosted with Indonesia. As we renew our pledge to remain good global citizens, striving for the well-being of all, let us remind ourselves that our joint work for a sustainable creative economy will help make the world a more peaceful, more colorful, and more harmonious place for future generations to live in and thrive. Thank you.
I wish to thank His Excellency Dr. Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, as well as Her Excellency Nora bin Muhammad Al-Kabi, Minister for Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates, as well as Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs, Her Excellency Retno Marsudi, for their strong and timely messages. I would like to note that His Excellency Dr. Sandiaga Uno has to leave us for another meeting. Thank you once again for joining us from the Island of God. Perhaps we can do the next event in person in Bali.
Thank you very much. I would really welcome that. And Excellency Pak Muhammad Koba, you are always welcome in the Island of Gods in Bali. And for all participants, please plan to visit Bali. You would come in as a guest, but you would go home as our family. Thank you very much, and may God bless all of us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Excellency. Now I would like to present the pre-recorded message of Honorable Fayaz Koya, the Minister of Commerce, Trade, Tourism, and Transportation of Fiji.
His Excellency, Ambassador Mohammed Kurniadi Koma, Chargé d'Affaires, Permanent Mission of Indonesia to the United Nations in New York, fellow esteemed ministers and respective directors, ladies and gentlemen, Bulavanaka from Fiji. Due to the time difference and parliamentary commitments, I have not been able to join you virtually. However, I wish I was there in person to deliver this very important ministerial statement. Colleagues, the 76th United Nations General Assembly, which opened on the 21st of September, has an appropriate theme: building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainably, respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the United Nations. And today's high-level ministerial, hosted by Indonesia, is aptly premised on this theme of resilient and inclusive creative economy for a thriving future. Creative economy, which is built on knowledge-based economic activities, is a stepping stone towards re-engineering growth. In the current times, no nation is spared from the mayhem of the COVID-19 pandemic. Decades of economic growth have spiraled downwards, whilst every industry holding comparative advantage has deterred from its course. We are now rebuilding. Not only do we need to rehabilitate key industries, but reconfigure our efforts and resources towards areas with potential. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Fiji too has not been exempt from the impacts of COVID-19. Before being relentlessly pummeled by the pandemic, Fiji exhibited an average of 3.2% consecutive growth for an entire decade. However, with the strike of the first wave in early 2020, the Fijian economy declined by 15.7%. In April this year, Fiji was hit by the second wave of the pandemic, where our economy is forecasted to contract by 4.1% in 2021. Like they say, with every crisis comes opportunities. These challenges have doubly strengthened our resolve to rebuild better and stronger, rebuild a resilient and robust economy, which will rise to its full potential. In collaboration with our international partners, the private sector, and other stakeholders, we have been able to successfully mitigate the spread and open businesses in a COVID-safe manner. And just 5 months since the second wave, Fiji is preparing to open its international borders. Colleagues, small island developing states like Fiji and many of us in the Pacific can very easily be brought to our knees, not only by pandemics, but the ever-present threat of climate change. The Pacific Island countries make up the smallest economies in the world. We are the most isolated from our key markets, and connectivity remains a growing concern. Colleagues, our resilience and long-term sustainability is dependent on our ability to adapt and recreate our economies. In this regard, the Fijian government, through our 2021-2022 national budget, has implemented initiatives and programs with specific focus on a creative economy. This unprecedented times reconfirm our economic base needs to be broadened with ICT and knowledge-based industries at the core. Fijian businesses have learned to adapt and pivot to online trading and digital payment platforms. However, many micro, small, and medium enterprises face difficulties due to the onerous requirements and prohibitive costs imposed by financial institutions. To help MSMEs build a greater resilience and to jumpstart the e-commerce sector, the Fijian government, with the central bank and the private sector, will work to bring our MSMEs online. Excellencies and colleagues, governments of SIDS alone cannot achieve the desired results. It takes broad partnership to modernize MSMEs and help them diversify into knowledge-based economic activities. We need support and a sustainable collaboration to build capacity for the adoption of digital commerce platforms, which will lower costs and enhance competitiveness. Thus, we need quality investments, including in infrastructure and appropriate technologies. Colleagues, this platform serves to reach out to the global community, as technical and financial support to SIDS is vital to elevate our economies. Support is needed to enhance research and development and the integration of SIDS into new and innovative industries. We need access to cutting-edge technology. We need to develop knowledge and expertise. We need to create an environment to continue growing and developing in a sustainable manner. Excellencies and colleagues, it is an important test to the international community of how it treats its vulnerable members or the SIDS. The special challenges and inherent vulnerability that we face must be taken into account in strategies for trade and development. For the SIDS to stay afloat and survive, we must re-innovate, re-strategize, reposition our priorities for the benefit of all. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Mario Freitas, the Secretary of Culture of Brazil.
Good morning, all. I salute all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the invitation to participate in such an important event. This meeting is a symbolic milestone on the international joint effort to rescue the normality of common life, thing that we conventionally call common life. Indeed, within the framework of the International Year of Creative Economy, the Special Secretary for Culture, in partnership with the Organization of Ibero-American States, will hold the second edition of the Creative Industry Market in Brazil from October 26 to 29 of this year. Its schedule, which will take place this year in a completely virtual environment, includes business roundtables, networking, presentation of products and services, as well as training for entrepreneurs, such as lectures, seminars, workshops, and mentoring clinics. This initiative aims to promote the creative sectors internationally. It is also important to highlight the impact that the international cooperation has on our public policies. Brazil has 10 cities recognized by the UNESCO Network of Creative Cities in the categories of food, design, crafts and folk arts, music, and film. But we want more. We plan to expand this concept to all our territory with the foundation of the Brazilian Network of Creative Cities that will promote the creative and innovative businesses across the country. Finally, it is worth highlighting that the culture of a people does not depend on large public funds, but on a deep spiritual connection between the cult and its timeless traditions. The millennia of human culture were built not with public money, but with an ardent and seething passion for the beautiful and the good. Set men free, and they will create a whole rich human culture, even without public funding. The general destruction of our moral imagination through a cultural debasement, which for decades was geared toward the construction of an ideological propaganda hostile to the traditions and beliefs of a common man, eliminated from the public imagination the full extent of the horror of a people without freedom. Recovering the foundation of human freedom is a fundamental cultural undertaking, which, as far as it depends on me and on the President Bolsonaro, will be prioritized, bringing the light to projects that promote the great classics of our culture. Thank you all. God bless you all. Obrigado a todos.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Minister Frias, for your remarks. I now present the message of His Excellency Lim Jock Hoi, the Secretary General of ASEAN.
His Excellency Mr. Sandiaga Salahuddin Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Her Excellency Ms. Noura binti Muhammad Al-Kabi, Minister of Culture and Youth of United Arab Emirates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to deliver a statement at this ministerial meeting on resilient and inclusive creative economy for a thriving future and share ASEAN's perspective on its strategy to embrace creative economy as an important driving force for overcoming COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has caused severe damages to the global economy after a decade of steady growth. ASEAN experienced a contract by 3% in 2020, which resulted in a massive unemployment, loss of income and livelihood of its people and many local communities. However, amidst such challenges, there is also an emerging opportunity for the creative economy, as many creative actors have successfully transformed their business model using digital technologies to adapt to the new normal. Indeed, it requires governments to put in place appropriate policies and resources to support the vulnerable, remove barriers, and pave the way for the sound development of the creative economy. Against this backdrop, let me share ASEAN's efforts to facilitate the recovery and promotion of a resilient and inclusive creative economy. First, ASEAN recognizes the creative economy is a major contributor to sustainable growth and human resource development of the region. The promotion of creative economy is a strategic direction for the future growth based on innovation and creativity. Its role as an important driver that can aid regional recovery is duly specified in the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework. During COVID-19, creative sectors have proved resilient, adapted, and show remarkable spillover effect across all sectors, fostering sustainable and inclusive development of the economy. Second, digital technology is identified as the enabler for the ASEAN creative economy. Shifting from traditional paradigm, ASEAN pivoted towards digital adoption and building a leading digital community. Following the adoption of the ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2021-2025, and most recently, the endorsement of Bandar Seri Begawan Roadmap on digital transformation earlier this month. ASEAN is committed to working towards the development of ASEAN digital economy by 2025. A convergence of digital economy and the creative economy will reinforce the region-wide ecosystem for innovation and creativity. It will not just ease the movement of creative goods and services, but also cement the enabling environment for inclusive participation of all creative actors, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises, and those who are working in the informal sector. To this end, ASEAN focuses on people-centered policy where opportunities are extended for greater development of education, science and technology, as well as to ensure the upskilling of culture and creative workers. Third, ASEAN leveraged the tourism sector to unleash the potential of creative economy ecosystems while pursuing recovery in the region. The tourism sector integrates both commercial and cultural value of the creative economy, such as art, museum, gastronomy, travel, and sports, in developing new creative tourism product, creative industry, and stimulating creative exports. As components of the ecosystem in ASEAN creative economy, tourism is a vehicle for integration, empowerment, and generating income of workers, rural community, indigenous people, especially those who are in the informal sector. The success of the reopening of tourism sector will rejuvenate the landscape of creative economy post-pandemic. In this regards, the endorsement of the post-COVID-19 recovery plan for ASEAN tourism in September 2021 and the operationalization of the ASEAN Travel Corridor Arrangement Framework in 2021 to facilitate essential travel among major steps forward in order to realize the goal. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude my remarks by emphasizing this. The resilient and inclusive creative economy shall unlock the innovation and creativity power of ASEAN for a shared future of all 10 ASEAN member states. This goal could only be achieved through an inclusive process where all creative actors, including businesses, government, consumer, industry, arts, and artisans, could play their parts and thrive together in an integrated ecosystem of the creative economy. ASEAN considering a robust mechanism that will involve all relevant stakeholders in effective cross-sectoral and cross-pillar coordination. Today's discussion is timely as the potential contribution of the creative economy to our economic growth and to our people's well-being is immense. I look forward to productive discussion on the way forward to support, develop, and promote the creative economy. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his message. Next, let me present participants with a message by His Excellency Darren Tang, the Director General of WIPO.
Your Excellency Ambassador Koba, Chargé d'Affaires at the Permanent Mission of Indonesia to the United Nations in New York, Your Excellency Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia, Your Excellency Nura El-Kapi, Minister of Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to join this meeting and speak to the theme of a resilient and inclusive creative economy for a thriving future. My remarks today will focus on 3 key points. First, creativity continues to be a key driver of social, cultural, and economic development the world over. For example, the strong performance of the Republic of Korea, the home of K-pop, in the World Intellectual Property Organization's 2021 Global Innovation Index, which saw Korea break into the top 5 performers for the first time, was driven by advances in global brand value and the export of cultural and creative services in the Republic. None of this is down to chance. It is a product of a consistent and concerted strategy that proves just what can be achieved when creative economies are placed at the center of national innovation ecosystems. While the COVID-19 pandemic has hit the creative industries and creators particularly hard, especially in developing and least developed countries, Korea's example highlights the crucial role that creative economies can play in spurring our collective efforts to build back better. Second, WIPO is committed to upholding the international copyright system and providing support at the regional and national levels to build capacity within these systems. IP is the backbone of the creative economy and the mechanism through which creators are fairly rewarded for their talent and ideas. WIPO will therefore continue to work with all member states to further strengthen the international copyright system and build respect for IP rights. It is this infrastructure that enables creators around the world to reap the fruits of their imagination. At the country level, for example, WIPO has recently worked with Indonesia to strengthen its regulatory environment and to measure the value of creative industries to the Indonesian economy. Likewise, WIPO is supporting the development of collective management organizations in the UAE. These organizations play a key role in facilitating access to creative works and ensure that the rights of creators are recognized and rewarded. More broadly, WIPO will continue to support the development of inclusive creative ecosystems by building IP skills for creators, connecting relevant stakeholders in that ecosystem, and developing tools in growth areas such as video games and mobile apps. For example, through our development project on IP and mobile applications, we are supporting app developers in countries as diverse as Kenya, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Philippines to harness IP as part of their business strategies. Third, we will continue to raise awareness of IP rights across the creative industries. WIPO for Creators is a new initiative that aims to increase knowledge of these rights so that creators are fairly compensated for their work, regardless of geography or cultural or economic conditions. Established in partnership with the Music Rights Awareness Foundation, WIPO for Creators is developing an online platform that will include videos to inspire, raise awareness, and increase knowledge of IP rights. All creators and stakeholders are welcome to join this initiative. Dear colleagues, dear friends, in conclusion, I would like to acknowledge the significance of the UN resolution declaring 2021 as the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. This resolution has brought focus to global efforts to address the challenges facing creative communities, as well as how we can support the creative sectors to rebuild from the effects of the pandemic. WIPO would like to thank Indonesia for tabling the resolution and both Indonesia and the UAE for your sustained support of the global creative economy. We look forward to working with all our member states and external partners to foster a world where innovation and creativity from anywhere is supported by IP for the good of everyone. Thank you very much.
I thank His Excellency for his message. I now present Her Excellency Rebecca Greenspan, the Assistant Director General of UNCTAD, to deliver her message.
Excellencies, dear friends, it is a great honor for UNCTAD to address this important ministerial side event on resilient and inclusive creative economies for a thriving future. We congratulate the government of Indonesia and the UAE for organizing this event and thank them for the occasion to discuss and highlight key issues on such an important subject. A subject very close to me and my past activities. So let me assure you of the importance I devote to this ministerial side event. Let me also take this opportunity to share with Indonesia my wishes for their greatest success as the oncoming chairs of the G20. Indonesia, especially with its recent track record of sustained development, has much to share with the world in these testing times. And it is high time for all of us to make use of this wealth of knowledge and effort. We are UNCTAD attach great importance to cultural and creative industries, what we call CCIs, because of their profound implications for trade and development and their transformative power across the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development. Particularly in today's information economy, knowledge and creativity are fast becoming powerful and, let me say, almost irreplaceable engines of growth. This is certainly the case in the services sector. Trade in creative services remains for developing countries a means to diversify their exports, while at the same time increase the participation of women and youth and foster innovation. Creativity lies at the heart of all the soft skills that the fourth industrial revolution demands of us all: flexibility, lifelong learning, and adaptability. Creative jobs at the same time are probably the hardest to automate. We will see a robot lawyer, I think, long before we see a robot actress or a robot poet or a robot dancer. On the other hand, culture is a pillar of development because culture is the dimension where we can really judge whether growth has been true after all, whether it has produced in us more rounded and dedicated human beings. Regrettably, the impact of COVID-19 on the creative industries has been massive, with a stark contrast between the losers, tourism, transport, and some personal services, and the winners, digital and ICT-based services that have prospered under COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. A recent study by UNESCO estimates a $750 billion contraction in cultural and creative industries worldwide, with more than 10 million new unemployed and reversals of around 40% in the CCIs of some developing countries. Most of these setbacks were experienced by women and the young. As in so many other fronts, this pandemic has deepened the pre-existing vulnerabilities of CCIs. We need to recover from the bottom up, and this means that we need to promote the sectors that have been hardest hit. It is therefore time to strengthen financial and regulatory frameworks in order for CCIs to flourish. Far too many artists and cultural entrepreneurs lacking access to finance and digital markets are condemned to informality and low productivity. Our recovery should focus on these left behind, and it is them who should spearhead it. This pandemic has also highlighted the need of the mecenas state, a state that sponsors cultural and creative industries and invests to close the gaps in ICT and digital infrastructures. Coordinated actions, strong commitment from states, international actors, private sector and stakeholders are key for creating enabling environments for CCIs at large. Because CCIs are key economic sectors with the bonus of empowering women and young people and foster social inclusion. Technological advances have created opportunities for developing countries to access global markets for their creativity and cultural diversity in a way not previously possible. Nonetheless, the challenges are immense and should not be underestimated. To overcome many obstacles and build back better post-pandemic, more concrete support will be needed by improving developing countries' supply capacity, the quality of their products, and their global reach. Dear friends, this 2021, the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, has served as an opportunity to lay the foundations for building back better from the bottom up and together. The response from governments and various stakeholders around the world to the UN resolution on creative economy has been heartening. UNCTAD and other UN agencies have been working together to seize this opportunity. UNCTAD and UNESCO are co-chairing an interagency working group on the implementation of the resolution, joining forces to maximize expertise and impact. It is our hope that this high-level ministerial meeting will further advance on this important agenda. In just 3 months, this International Year of Creative Economies and Sustainable Development will be over, and there is still much to do. Let me reaffirm the commitment of UNCTAD to join member states in their efforts to strengthening their creative economies for development. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Her Excellency Rebecca Greenspan, the Secretary General of UNCTAD, for her message. Rounding up for the last speakers at the first segment, I wish to invite Mr. Ernesto Otone Ramirez, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO. You have the screen, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of UNESCO, the specialized agency in culture of the UN, I would like to thank Indonesia and the UAE for organizing this important side event, which resonates fully with UNESCO's mandate and efforts to leverage culture for sustainable development, to build back better, or to build back differently. COVID-19 acted as both a revelator and also an accelerator of existing vulnerabilities of the culture sector. Since the beginning of the crisis, UNESCO has worked across a variety of stakeholders to advocate for the inclusion of culture in the global policy response to COVID-19, notably bringing together Ministers of Culture to analyze the impact of the health crisis on the culture sector, steering the global policy response, and expanding its dialogue with regional, sub-regional EGOs and development banks to address specific demands and needs across regions. In parallel, UNESCO launched the Resilient Global Movement to support creative professionals and artists, leading to some 300 debates involving 121 countries around the world. These actions sparked enhanced engagement, stronger international cooperation, and a more robust positioning of culture across the public policy spectrum, but taking into account the whole ecosystem that was and is in crisis. This dynamic has been strongly echoed at the political level, notably through the effective integration, for the first time ever, of culture in the G20 summit, under the presidency of Saudi Arabia in 2020, and in July in Italy with the presidency. As we heard from your minister, Indonesia will continue 2022 this path, profiling culture as an uncontested driver of social and economic development, resilience, and well-being. I wish to commend Indonesia's initiative towards marking the International Year of Creative Economy ahead of the rotating presidency of the G20. UNESCO will stand by Indonesia to support its strong leadership in positioning culture as a major, uncontested engine for sustainable social and economic recovery. The priority is to better sustain the economic value and harness its potential for the development of the creative economy through policy action. As one of the outcomes of the International Year of the Creative Economy, our organization is actively supporting the second World Conference on the Creative Economy hosted by the UAE, as it was mentioned by the Minister, at Dubai Expo as a follow-up to the first World edition of the conference in Bali in 2018. The impact of the global health crisis on the culture sector calls for bold policy decisions and actions in support of the culture and creative sector. It means that actions imply expanding the systemic collection of culture-related data, unemployment, consumption model, online and offline, and the effective weight of culture in national economies, from cultural contents, activities, tourism, and institutions. Second, laying the foundation for structural change, fostering an equitable digital transformations through diversified cultural contents, and expand public access to diverse cultural expression for promoting cultural diversity and multilingualism. Advancing economic and social rights of artists and cultural professionals, online and offline. UNESCO promote key normative instruments in this regard, such as the 80 recommendation on the status of the artist and the 2005 Convention on the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expression. But we have also to upscaling technical and vocational education in the culture and creative sector to integrate fully the digital transition, including artificial intelligence. Expanding multi-stakeholders approaches toward more transversal and collaborative patterns and synergy across public policy, from climate to education, going through peace and security. In ending, I would like to invite all member states to unanimously support the adoption of the resolution on culture and sustainable development in the framework of this General Assembly, which will further echo today's commitment. These efforts will pave the way towards UNESCO World Conference on Cultural Policy for Sustainable Development, Mondiacult, which will be hosted in Mexico in September 2022. So to finish, only to share with you, we will be able to do when we adopt that culture is a common good, and it has to be accessible universally for everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Following up on our first segment, it is also important to hear the views from multi-stakeholders or actors of the creative economy. The pentahelix approach underlines the importance of a multi-stakeholder, inclusive as well as active participation of different entities. As such, I am honored to be here today to listen to our distinguished pentahelix speakers. Let me introduce you to Professor John Hawkins, the Chairman, Hawkins and Associates, Dr. Dina Delina, Gising Operator, Ms. Lisabo Lekhar, the Deputy Director of Taskel, and Sinta Danu Wardoyo, the founder of Bubu.com. Each speaker, we have 4 to 5 minutes, and it would be highly appreciated if you can observe the set time limit. Now, let's turn our attention to Professor John Hawkins. Professor, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to start by saying what an honor it is to address this ministerial side event and to hear the very distinguished speeches that we've heard so far, in particular, of course, in this year on the creative economy. I want to take my few minutes to suggest we're going through a shift in our understanding of creativity and the creative economy, the creativity in the creative economy. For the past 20 years, we really concentrated on identifying the sectors, collecting data, measuring them, employment, value, sales, trade, and devising policies. And I think largely due to the work by UNCTAD and the 2 specialized agencies present here, we've all done a remarkable job. We've achieved a tremendous amount in those 20 years. I think the next 20 years, starting sort of now in this year, are going to be different and have a different focus. We all know the creative economy is more than just a collection of business sectors. Many speakers have referred to that. But I think we've tended not to really think what that means. I'm aware, though, that I see evidence there's a new understanding of creativity, what it means to the individual doing it. I talk about additionality and the transformational effect of the creative act. There's a new understanding of the relationship between creativity and innovation, which are often lumped together, but they're fundamentally different. We need to think that one through. There's also, I think, increasing awareness that people who are creative and successfully so and dedicate their lives to it are different. They have different ways of working, different ways of thinking, different motives for working. Motive is really important. Different kinds of organization, different management styles. And those different management styles, I think, are something we should be looking at more in the future. I think I'd like to suggest one phrase, and it came close, I think, with the previous speaker talking about artificial intelligence and learning machines, that the creative economy, in a way, is the first economy that we can call an economy of the people, because it relies upon everybody's individual, personal, subjective imagination, ideas, talent, and the work we put into that imagination and ideas and talent. It is an economy of the people. We can understand it better if we think in those terms. And we also need to be very aware of the humanist attitude, elements of that, particularly when we think about AI. Many speakers have talked about culture. It's very important, as well as using the culture of the past. Some speakers have talked about the creative economy creating the culture of the future. So those two things, the emphasis on the individual creative humanist contribution and the role of culture, I think those are going to become the dominant themes of the next few years. We've identified the business sectors. Now let's focus down on the individuals that are contributing to what I think is the first people's economy, the first human economy. And of course, that leads directly into these questions of resilience and inclusivity, human rights, equality, and not just in the workplace, but the home, and the home is the workplace. I think this gives a new perspective for understanding the creative economy as it is in the minds of the individual who are doing it. So thank you for inviting me to speak. I look forward to meeting many of you again at the World Conference on the Creative Economy and developing these ideas about the next stage, if you like, of our understanding. I'll just finish with those three words: creativity, innovation, and the creative economy. Creativity, innovation, and the creative economy, and how they work together. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Professor Hawkins. Next, we have Dr. Dina Deliana, GISING Coordinator. Dr. Deliana, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Pak Koba. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and participants, the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has established the Global Center of Excellence for International Cooperation and Creative Economy, as we call GISING, in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the ITB School of Business and Management. So GISING's commitment is to mainstream creative economy issues and fulfill the mandate of the Bali Agenda for Creative Economy. To that, GISING has visions and missions. So we want to become a global focal point in research, development, accelerations, and also cooperations which support the global creative economic growth. And to achieve the missions, we have 4 missions. First, increasing capacity and capability of creative actors in resulting innovative and sustainable work, increasing the ability to access upstreams and downstream industry to global creative actors, increasing access to information, lesson learned, and best practices to global creative actors, and also promoting partnerships and collaborations between government and all world creative economy stakeholders. So we believe that in these pandemic situations, the pandemic actually giving a negative impact to some of the business. Although, as our minister said, that the games, video, content creative, actually having a significant rise in these pandemic situations. We found that the new customer behavior span all areas of life, from how we work to how we shop to how we entertain ourselves. And this rapid shift have important implications for creative players as well. So many of the longer-term changes in consumer behavior are still being formed, giving companies and creative players an opportunity to help shape the next normal. So behavior changes are not linear, and their stickiness will depend on satisfactions of the new experiences. However, the business needs to survive and start finding the new way to overcome the challenges. As companies, creative players plan to live after the COVID pandemic, one of the trickiest tasks will be to identify the new set of priorities. Throughout this crisis, coping and keeping up with the ever-shifting situations have taken precedence. And there are many homeworks, we believe, for creative players. In the wake of COVID-19, a top priority for many companies and creative players has been to address talent questions, including how to optimize hybrid teams, attract and retain workers with needed capabilities, and make the most of scarce skills. And at the same time, they have to stay relevant across multiple touch points like brand, platforms, retailers' own stores, multi-brand, etc. And they have to leapfrog digital capabilities like towards first-class e-commerce, seamless omni-channel experience, and many more. And also they have to allocate resources in line with the journey shift. However, we found that there are many new business models which rose already, helped so many artists live during these pandemic situations. We heard many of our friends in fine art, they start selling NFT or non-fungible token, yeah, for digital arts. Also musicians, video makers, they start selling NFT and get so many money from that, so much money from that. And also virtual concerts, virtual exhibitions, yeah, it's actually rising now in Indonesia. Online auctions to fine art and many more, and also some new utilizations of omni digital channels for selling and marketing. So I believe the creative players still in their place to be creative and innovative in handling many kind of situations, particularly in this pandemic era. So for that, GSync tries to support this new need by providing many programs which are relevant to the need of creative players. And mainly, our program built according to 4 foundations, such as capacity building, accelerations, networking and partnerships, also research. So we already conduct researches, including database in the creative scene in Indonesia, and building some strategies to ASEAN creative players, which you can actually access in our websites. And also in terms of capacity building, we already built and run some program in adoption readiness tools, digital learning, instructor-led learning, certifications, global partnership consulting services, awareness training, workshop for decision maker, adoption training, and also tools training. So finally here, I'd like to invite all of you here to connect and collaborate. We believe that we can strive together to build a new strength and capacity to beat the next normal situations, and particularly we can help the rise of the creative players and survive during these pandemic situations. Thank you so much for the opportunities. So we're looking forward for your collaborations.
Thank you, Dr. Deliana. Moving on, we have Ms. Lisa Bolekar, the Deputy Coordinator of TASCA. Ms. Lisa Bolekar, the floor is yours.
Thank you and welcome. Thank your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to allow Tashkil to share our experience with the global community at this important ministerial event. For 13 years, Tashkil has been supporting artists and designers in the United Arab Emirates. Founded by the visual artist and cultural philanthropist Sheikh Latifa bin Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum, this is a Dubai-based organization that provides a nurturing environment for the contemporary visual arts and design in all its forms. The pandemic had an immense impact on the creative community here. Alongside concerns around safeguarding families, practitioners lost commissions, employment opportunities, funding, and contracts. Some shut down with the lockdown, both physically and emotionally. Others found strength, maximizing the solitude it offered to research, experiment, and push the boundaries of their practice. With 500 members and thousands more who engage through our public programs, Tashkil leapt into action with support, guidance, and investment to enable UAE's ecosystem to adapt and build resilience for the future. We were the first organization in the country to publish a mental health toolkit specifically for artists and designers. We were the first organization in the UAE to present a group exhibition to explore and understand and process responses to the pandemic. And we were the first organization to deliver art boxes to children stuck in their homes, inspiring imaginations and fostering transferable skills. Now, identifying new income streams for practitioners has always taken priority. Now, Tashkil is training artists to teach, generating an important additional income stream. One resounding lesson to come out of the hiatus was the need to equip artists and designers with solid business skills, marketing, sales, finance, and contract negotiation. Tashkil has now doubled its annual output of arts management training. And we also launched the Tashkil Scholarship Fund, a $150,000 resource to support artists and designers from the UAE in their postgraduate studies. Our first cohort are now pursuing master's degrees in the UK, Italy, and the USA. One of the most exciting elements of our funding strategy is in the area of homegrown product design and manufacturing and retail. For centuries, the land we now call the UAE has been a vital trading crossroads. Over the last 50 years, the country's manufacturing capacity has grown, and as a result, so too has its retail export potential. Now is the time for the design sector to make its mark, both in the national and international markets, through products that are proudly UAE made and UAE inspired. With Dubai as the only UNESCO City of Design in the MENA region, Tashkil is investing in product designers to create pieces that integrate a definitively contemporary UAE design language with Emirati craft, such as the traditional weaving practice Al-Sadu, which is part of the UNESCO Intangible Heritage List. Our commitment to designers is also having a positive impact on the country's industrial sector. Over the last 10 years, Tashkil has collaborated with 123 manufacturers, fabricators, and suppliers across this country to prototype 39 furniture and lighting products by 26 UAE-based designers, all inspired, designed, and made in the UAE. 21 of these designs are now currently retailing as the Tanween collection, with profits going back into our training programs, thus building a circular economy model, investing in the future. And as we seek to lead by example, we encourage others to design and produce UAE-made art and design into the markets. Through our initiative, Make Works UAE, we are facilitating introductions between manufacturers and design practitioners, growing local production capacity. And as we grow, our focus is on sustainability. By learning from the UAE's rich past, we are identifying new techniques leading to material innovations with indigenous natural resources. We've already funded a new composite material made of palm fronds, arish, and in November, we will debut furniture and lighting pieces made of new materials, alternative concrete made from dune sand and tree resin, plant leather, and a material derived from the national tree of the UAE, the ghaf. Tashkil is honoured to be part of the UAE's contribution to the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. And we look forward to continuing our support, our innovation and our collaboration for many more years to come, empowering artists and designers to pursue their professions sustainably and nourish both the social, the cultural, and the economic fabric of the United Arab Emirates. We look forward to seeing you and welcoming you at the World Conference on the Creative Economy in 2021 in Dubai. Shukran wa masalama.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa Bolekar. Thank you for your remarks. Finally, we have Ms. Sinta Danu Wardoyo, the founder of Pugu.com. Ms. Danu Wardoyo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. As the largest economy in Southeast Asia and fourth populous country in the world with a very young population, Indonesia's creative industry is definitely moving forward towards the powerhouse for the region. And as what our Minister, Tourism and Creative Economy, Sandiaga Uno, have said, that we rank the third largest in the world in terms of contribution to our GDP in the creative economy. So if we look at which sector is actually the biggest sector that contributes to the Indonesia's creative economy, is basically the fashion industry. And so far, that remains the biggest with the GDP contributing to our GDP of about $9 billion. And we must admit that the creative economy in Indonesia has the potential to grow due to various factors. One of it is the ever-growing middle class, for instance, and also the large consumer market for the creative product itself. And personally, I witnessed how fashion industry has been an excitement, especially in the youth market in Indonesia. Being a country with 50% of the population below 30 years old, so very, very young population that we have, Indonesia does represent itself with a very powerful and dynamic youth culture. And thus, these youth actually are the spenders. So, this is also the growing middle class, and they're also the spenders. To give an example, for instance, in Indonesia, we have a very famous sneaker brand called Kompas shoes, and they can literally sell thousands of pairs in minutes online. And this is also happening during the pandemic. So I think that's very amazing. And Kompas Designs is actually the work of very young, talented individual, 34 years old creative director. His name is Aji Handoko. And, with its success, I think Kompas now can actually aim to build an ecosystem in becoming a platform that supports collaboration with other brands within the creative industry, of course, but it could be either both locally or globally as well. And what they're really good at is actually they use their power of their strong community and also their cult fans, and of course their world-class design. But with this power, they're able to actually not only withstand but thrive during the pandemic. And I think it is crucial that we give the right support and see how we can enable access to this talented young creative artists in our country, in the creative economy ecosystem, to take them actually cross-border, so making them not only a strong player in the local market, but they should be ready to be part of the dynamic global youth culture ecosystem as well. And I actually want to highlight also the digital economy in the country, because I've been in the tech industry for about 25 years now. When I started my company, Boo.com, it was like 1996, hardly any internet users. But now, as you can see, Indonesia has grown to adopt digital technology at a very rapid pace. Becoming the highest internet users in Southeast Asia, with about 202 million at penetration, with a rate of 73.7%. And actually, the pandemic has boosted digitalization in the country, and with the COVID-19 hindering a lot of movement within the society. So it's been like a blessing in disguise, because it actually boosts our digital economy. And for comparison, the Indonesia's brick and mortar retail saw a decline about 18.3%, but the e-commerce transaction grew 107.1% in volume, and it's actually 2 times increase in usage as well. So with the current spotlight around our digital economy, however, the resources are still centralized in Jakarta mostly. So when we talk about resources, we talk about 3 things, which is capital, network, and knowledge, which is like the 3 most important things for entrepreneurs. And these resources are mostly concentrated and available for startup in Jakarta and not other cities in Indonesia. So what we decided to do at the end of 2019, before the pandemic hit, we actually launched a platform, an online platform called startupindonesia.co platform, which what we're trying to do is, like, our mission is to democratize resources. We want to connect founders, startup founders, and investors through an online platform, and we want to bring transparency, inclusivity, and also demystifying the venture capital landscape in Indonesia. And within a year after the inception, by January 2020, startupindonesia.co has captured more than 1,000 startups data, 3,000 founders. We work with 70 venture capitals, and we accommodated around about 625 meetings between founders and investors. And this is amazing, because we ended up having more than 50% are coming from outside of Jakarta, which was the goal from the beginning. So, and in conjunction of the creative industry, we can also see that the creative economy somehow bring a positive outcome to the creative economy industry. A lot of the venture capitals are actually looking at direct to consumers brands such as fashion, F&B, beauty products. And we see by 2020, I think the number of venture capital investing in D2C products are going up by 63.8%, which is twice more deals happening in the sector. So this is a great news for the creative economy. And of course, when we talk about SMEs, we can't talk about, without talking about women, of course, here, because we know when we talk about SME, women-owned SME make up, I think, about almost half of the Indonesia's SME market. So what we do here in startupindonesia.co platform, we're currently running a 4-month incubation program called Super Girls in Tech, which is supported by the UN Women. And in this program, we want to solve gender parity and empower more women to actually start their own business using technology as a platform. And so, yes, indeed, we're looking towards and excited to see how both the creative economy and the digital economy of Indonesia can greatly contribute to the country's economy. And the emergence of the millennial generation is no doubt a contribution factor to push this economic growth, and we do really want to support them, the young mind and the creative minds of Indonesia. And we're hopeful that we will be able to create a sustainable creative movement towards Indonesia's ever-growing creative economy, definitely to support the UN's SDGs. Thank you so much, and looking forward to building a cool and sustainable Indonesia. And may the sustainable digital and creativity force to be with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sinta Danurwardoyo. Now we have heard the last speaker and reached the end of today's discussion. Many excellent contributions have been made by your countries to drive the creative economy's role in sustainable development. And I hope that our countries and more will continue to ensure that creative economy sustains its crucial role. And I would like to thank all the honorable ministers, distinguished keynote speakers, and participants for your contribution and active participation. Before we adjourn the meeting, allow me to share key takeaways of today's event. COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted global socio-economic aspects, including to the creative economy sectors. We need to recognize the important contribution that an inclusive creative economy provides for the attainment of sustainable development. The meeting also underscored the importance of the development and application of technology, innovation, and digitalization for the creative economy sectors, for the continuation of creation, production, and distribution of products and services amidst the pandemic situation. A strong commitment is urgently needed to further collaborate and explore potential ways to enhance multi-stakeholder cooperation, including through information sharing, capacity building, and technical assistance to address challenges and pave the way for a resilient and inclusive creative economy sector. And the last point that I want to make is the meeting also highlighted the need to make the most of the upcoming World Conference on Creative Economy hosted by the UAE later this year. On that note, allow me to close today's event. And once again, thank you to all delegations, excellencies, speakers, and today's participants. Stay well and stay healthy. Terima kasih. The meeting is adjourned.